I think it's so important to become aware that you have this ego that wants you to keep hating on certain parts of you or all of you, whatever that is, and that there's an opportunity for you to decide, if I want something different, I'm going to start to recognize when I'm saying this to myself, I'm going to catch it and I'm going, you know what? That's not my truth.
Welcome to the Badass Manifester podcast, keeping you inspired with high vibe content, bringing you the best manifestation and mindset tools, teachings, interviews, and answering questions to help empower you to get out of your own way and take massive action to make magic your everyday normal. I'm your host, Ashley Gordon, spiritual life and manifestation coach, helping women and spiritual entrepreneurs manifest more impact, influence, and income. It is my purpose and pleasure to help you wake up to the badass creator that you are. Let's do this. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on the Badass Manifester podcast. I am really excited because today I'm interviewing someone who is really skilled at a lot of things that I am not, which is always good because that's what we're all about. We're bringing on experts to talk about things that are really important to take a holistic approach to manifesting your life. And today I have Amber here. Tell me how you say your last name.
Romaniuk.
Oh, Romaniuk. I love it.
Yeah.
So Amber is an emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert who helps professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. Her podcast is called the No Sugarcoating Podcast. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with that. And she has over 500,000 downloads, y'all. And she is basically a local celebrity or like an international celebrity. I'm really excited to interview you.
Oh, thank you.
To the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm so excited. So first of all, I mean, you guys, I don't know much about Amber at all, so I'm excited to genuinely find out about you. So share with me how you became who you are today.
A lot of time and work.
Right?
Soul discovery. No, really for me, it's kind of been a journey since I was young. So kind of a couple key milestones. When I was 5, I was like super excited. We moved out to the country and it was my first day on the school bus. And I got on the bus and the older boys called me fat and ugly. And that just like ruined me. I believed them. I took it on as my identity and I became very shy. And I definitely didn't trust boys. And then another part of that was I always had food accessible to me. So food never called me names. It was always my friend. And my mom also had a very emotional relationship with food because she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis before I was born. And so I think for her, a way to compensate because she couldn't do certain things with me was, let's always have food available. Let's always have our favorites. And we would eat a lot together. And so there was never like portion sizes or like I could always eat as much as I wanted to. There was always a lot of treats available. So I just assumed it was normal to like bake a batch of cookies and like sit down and eat 5 or 6 of them and, watch a TV show because that just seemed like the norm because my mom was too. And then I probably did my first diet at 10 because of course I assumed that in order to, be attracted by the opposite sex and to, be wanted and loved, like I have to look a certain way. And so I really, would be up and down with my weight through my teens and really, what shifted or flipped the switch was in my early 20s. I had a relationship had ended, my first serious relationship, and I was heartbroken. And I also didn't love myself. And so I had this massive void that was just made bigger because I was expecting someone else to make me happy. And of course, as we know, that doesn't work. So I couldn't eat, like literally couldn't eat. And so I started to lose weight really fast. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll be able to hit my goal weight because I'm under eating, I'm exercising a lot. And it actually happened very quickly. And now I was getting all this attention from men in the wrong way. The interesting thing was I became more arrogant and I started to pick myself apart more and like stand in the mirror for hours. Like, oh, maybe I can lose that, another pound and have a thigh gap and all this different stuff. And of course, then the guy didn't want me back. And so I thought, well, if he doesn't want me back after I look like this, like, what's the point? And so that's when the switch really flipped and the binge eating, started full blown. And I vividly remember the first experience. I went to a party and I took an ice cream cake and I said, I'm just going to eat the salad that I brought, not going to have anything else. And then I got offered a small piece of cake and I ate it. And it's like this like zing, this like high, this pleasure feeling just came over me. And then I had a second piece of cake and then we had s'mores. And then I actually took like the bar and a half of chocolate that was not used and I grabbed them and I went into the bathroom and I like ate it all. And then I took the rest of the cake home and ate it all. And that was like my first binge that I was aware of that was like purposeful, even though I had no idea what I was doing. So fast forward a few months, I had gained over 60 pounds. I was just so embarrassed and overwhelmed with the fact that I had gone from my thinnest to my heaviest. I was isolating. I was staying home. I wasn't seeing friends. I obviously wasn't dating. I didn't feel good enough at all because my weight was 100% tied to my worth. I thought that was how it was supposed to be. I thought, if you look a certain way, you'll be happy. And if you don't, you're not going to be happy. Versus, the inner work. I really had no idea about the inner work or how to deal with stress or how to deal with my emotions. So I just ate. And then of course, when I had hit a certain weight, I'd panic and then diet and try and lose the weight. And so in my mid-20s, I gained and lost over 1,000 pounds. And my low point was when I binged. And then I was obviously very full, very upset, was crying on the couch. And I got an ounce of room in me. And so I went into the, little blue garbage can in my kitchen. I just so vividly remember. And I pulled out the cookies out of the garbage and I started eating them. And I cried. And then I got really angry at myself. And then I went and threw it all in the dumpster out in the back of my apartment at the time. And then I went back and I dug through the dumpster. So this was like my low point. And I'm just thinking, this is not meant to be who I am. Like, I'm not meant to eat out of a garbage can. I'm not meant to be in this much physical and emotional pain. Why is this happening to me? I have no freaking clue how I'm going to change this or what I'm going to do, but I need to do something. And that's when I started to immerse myself in reading about, sugar and how addicted some people can become to it and why gluten and dairy were making me bloated. And so I really started to look at the physical aspect of healing first with like digestion and cravings. And then once I started to gain a handle on not binging as often, I recognized that whilst I had, been able to cut out refined sugar and wheat and dairy for a while, which I had to do to gain some form of control. Yeah. I still wanted to binge on like really healthy foods. Like I would eat 10 bananas and a whole jar of nut butter. So it was still happening. Right. And that's when I realized how valuable the emotional and spiritual journey were for me. I had to learn how to love myself. I had to learn how to make myself a priority and not people please and not overbook my schedule. And as I learned to understand what would trigger me to go to food and that it was a self-hate or self-sabotaging behavior because I didn't love myself, I was inspired to want to learn how to love myself. And I think my whole journey accumulated to building self-love. And then I realized I had an intuition and that was scary. I'm like, I can feel stuff. I can see stuff that's coming. And it scared the crap out of me in the beginning. And so another reason why I ate was fear of my intuition. And
like
so
hiding your spirit, like your own spiritual gifts.
Exactly. Because it was scary. I'm like, how do I even deal with this at first? So the suppression of that through binging is kind of how I got into the discovery that I had this intuition as well. And so then, of course, as I was making all these changes, people are asking me, what are you doing? You're eating differently. You're making different foods. You have different ingredients in your house. You're talking about health like we've never heard you talk about it before and what you're doing. And so then I started to think like, if I struggle with this the way that I did, how many other people, especially women, are struggling with some form of eating disorder, emotional eating, binging, body image issues, weight struggles, right? Like diet addiction, I think is so real. And so I thought, I really want to start my own business. I want to help women. And this is what I really want to focus on because I have the brain of an addict and an obsessor who, fought with her body for years. And I can just so relate to what, my clients and listeners are going through. And I want them to know they're not alone. And so I've now had my business for 6 years. I went to school to become a certified holistic nutritionist for more of like the physical healing end. But to me, the biggest value I can offer people is, yes, I have an education, but I think my personal experience is invaluable because for the last 10 years and onward, like I always am continuing to grow and deepen the relationship I have with myself, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And that always then provides so much value to my clients.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what inspired me to go from where I was to where I am today.
Yeah, no big deal. Wow, no, that's so beautiful. And it's just amazing and such a beautiful example of what happens when like your darkest night actually turns into what your purpose is.
Yes, exactly. Dark night of the soul.
Dark night of the soul. I always tell people how can you really express yourself in your true purpose if you don't experience the opposite of it?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think if more people would be open to him, like sit in it and go, you know what, this is happening for a reason. I'm going to, kind of trudge through it and see what's on the other side. Like we all have a purpose. Sometimes, like you said, it just takes going through something to see what it is.
It's so true. So good for you for getting there and for also kind of just saying like the work never ends. I'm still deepening my relationship with myself. And so, wow, there's so much to unpack with what you shared. I feel like, especially women, online entrepreneurs, right? Like people that are in service-based businesses, are those the women that you primarily help?
Yeah. So I find a lot of my clients are business owners, and, or maybe they're in health and wellness, but maybe they're like a lawyer, a nurse, a doctor, right? Or they're a mother, they've had a career and now they're a mother and they're going, oh my gosh, I don't want to pass these habits on to my child. Right. So that's another huge one too.
What do you think is, the one thing that you see as like one of the biggest issues that women are struggling with right now when in regards to like everything you just shared about?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest breakdowns is there is so much insecurity. So many people don't feel good enough. Yeah. And then what happens is from that core limiting belief of I'm not enough or I'm not worthy, then, these women are assuming I have to overachieve. I have to people please. I have to say yes to everyone else and no to myself. I've got to make sure my schedule is booked up with events and meetings and extracurricular activities for the kids. I've got to hustle, which I truly just don't believe. And I think hustle gives people adrenal fatigue and fuels emotional eating. But there's just I've got to go to prove my worth. But the cost is it's costing these women their health physically and emotionally. Yeah. It's fueling emotional eating. Like an overbooked schedule has a negative impact on your physical and emotional health. So it's those mindsets that, we're not working on or understanding that this is why all of this is happening. And then of course that has a negative impact on manifesting abundance.
Right.
Business,
exactly.
Aligning to the right opportunities. Maybe you attract some really not great people and opportunities because of the scenario that you are at or the situation you are in with yourself.
So true. How do you balance that as an entrepreneur and also a service-based business, soulful-based business? How do you, because I know there's so much to do. Most people don't understand what goes on behind the scenes of an online business.
Yeah. So it's been very important for me to learn work-life balance. I have very strong boundaries around my working hours and my play/rest hours. I don't do weekends. I have, a specific amount of private coaching time. But I've kind of intuitively learned how much is safe for me as far as supporting other people. And then, how much am I contributing to podcasting or media appearances and other parts of my business that are in alignment. I think I've shelved a lot of things because when I first started my business, I wanted to do everything, but then it kind of exhausted me. So I think it was important to pick my priorities and go focus. These are the things I really want to focus on. I also think it's important, to have a really great self-care routine. And I, again, have developed that over the last 6 or 7 years where it's morning, especially some evening, and then weekends, I do, more abundant amounts of self-care. And that includes doing fun things. It's not just I'm sitting and meditating every day, all day, but that is a part of my self-care practice.
Having fun.
That's really important. And fun. You have to have fun. Because that's one thing I know is I took my journey so seriously for so long because there was so much suffering that I'm like, I need to have more fun. So I know I've all the people around me, my boyfriend and close friends and family, like they're so supportive of like reminding me to have fun.
I love that. And I think people hear it. They're like, have fun, have fun. Mm-hmm. But it's one thing to know it, and it's another thing to actually embody that.
Yeah.
And actually incorporate it into your life.
Yes. And I think if people have a limiting belief of like, well, no, I have to work really hard and then the fun will come later, right? I have to overextend myself. And again, it's to understand that no, fun's going to help you attract abundance and attract what you want.
So true. And if you're listening right now and you're like, oh, that is so me. Like I have to work really hard and have fun.
Right.
I feel like that's also when I used to work in a corporate job, I would be like working all week and then Friday would come and I would honestly just want to get drunk because I'm like, it's fun time. Right. And like, I used to equate alcohol with fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? Is what I find ends up happening for most of these women is because they're like overexpending themselves throughout the entire week. When the weekend hits, it's like this extreme all or nothing. So it's like, I'm all in with my diet and like the job during the week. But once, I'm done work on Friday, then it's like, I'm going deep into the food, the alcohol, I'm going and spending, copious amounts of money shopping because I need to suppress and numb all of these overwhelmed feelings that I have instead of dealing with them and like building balance. And then they end up Monday in regret, upset, not feeling good in their bodies, their clothes aren't fitting properly, they're bloated, they feel yucky. And now they have to go through a whole nother week of overwhelm, right? So it builds up very fast.
What are some tools of building balance? Because I'm working on that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the first thing is to look at your schedule, pull your schedule out. And if you see no white space, it's time to start creating some white space because you do need to create time and space to take care of yourself. You can't just try slot in 5 minutes between your, multiple meetings. And, I see women who, claim they have these amazing businesses and then they're on their Instagram stories going, and I'm eating my lunch in my car between meetings. And I'm like, that's not good for you. And that like, why would I want to invest in your business if you are not able to take care of yourself? Right. So I think it's so important to block off your lunch break and just take it. And ideally you're not in your car and you're sitting somewhere eating your food and chewing it slowly to, help with mindful eating and digestion. If you have to block off all the time you take for yourself, do it in your schedule, cancel, reschedule, move things ahead so that you can start to create that time now. And I think setting healthy boundaries is important. So if you are a people pleaser, know that you can change that. I used to be a huge people pleaser and it did trigger emotional eating. And so it's like, say, you know what, this weekend isn't going to work. You know what, I'm not able to come and help with that volunteering. I've got to, take care of myself. There can be some guilt that comes along with that, but it's just like with anything with repetition and practice, you will become a boundary setting, like awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It does become easy. And I've seen my clients set back, they've had to set some pretty strong boundaries and it's scary for them and they do it. And it's like everything changes.
It's amazing what happens when we just say no so we can be a yes for ourselves.
Exactly. And we have to have to say no to others and say yes to ourselves because not only does your business success, I think, really depend on it. Like I always say, I think the health of yourself on all levels will dictate the health of your business. But more importantly, like you need to be healthy and happy to show up and enjoy your business and your success.
Yeah, because on the days that I am not taking care of myself and I'm drained and tired, I don't want to go live. I don't want to post. I don't have the inspiration. It does affect me. It's so interesting that you said like scheduling. Because I literally schedule, and I'll show you. I have 12:30 to 1:30, 1 o'clock every day, lunch and nourish. Good. I have that reminder come up in my phone, like, Ashley, this is your time for a break. Get off your computer. Whatever you're working on can wait. Yeah. And I think my mind is like, no, it's priority. I have to finish this.
Yeah.
But no, I'm I'm priority.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so important to have those reminders pop up in your schedule. And I know, like, especially being a business owner, we're so passionate about what we're doing and we just want to
Yes,
keep going with it because we're like, yes, I love it all. But
it's true.
it's so important to go. The passion will still be there when you get back. And if you want the energy to keep, flowing with that passion, you've got to take the time to honor yourself. It's just so important.
It really, really is. And like some of your posts I was looking on Instagram, like they're so good because even just like you have a pink quote, it says answering emails during self-care time. Like it's the same thing. I mean, I've done it. And I'm like, I go to read and then I end up on my phone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy with social media now to get distracted with computers. And that's why I think it's also important to set a healthy boundary with technology and have time, before bed, like 15 to 30 minutes before bed, unplug from technology, put it away, and or make sure you don't have your phone around you when you're doing self-care, unless you're just put some, X music on and then you're putting it out of the way. And I find what ends up happening is when we say, you know what, I'm going to just sit and eat my lunch and not answer emails. I'm going to do my self-care and I'm going to stop answering emails. And if we break our integrity and we go and answer the emails, like there's a part of you that's going to be angry with yourself and is going to potentially start to resent your business because, again, you're not having that balance. And I know there were some times for me where I started to resent my business. And I'm like, no, I love this.
Yeah.
So that's where the balance is so key. Like if you're resenting or starting to resent your business, it's so important to take a step back and look at how much time you're putting into it and how much time you're giving yourself and where do things need to change.
Yeah. It's so, so important. So would you say do you schedule your self-care?
Oh yeah. So I don't really need to anymore because I'm pretty solid in my routine, but they still pop up. So I have like little self-care check-ins that pop up and then I stop and just, how am I feeling? Do I need anything? Do I need to do some deep breaths or get water? Right. So those are helpful, but otherwise like my evening, morning and weekend self-care, it's just ingrained in my brain now, but definitely in the beginning, scheduling it helped to just remind me of the different options I had available for self-care, which again, was just like, oh yeah, I want to do self-care. Here's what I can do. And it just made it easier to get into a groove, right? Yeah. Just like with anything in the beginning, I think it is always helpful to have reminders in your calendar.
For sure. So, and then that's another thing that's like, oh yeah, self-care. It's like, have fun, but like, no, actually do it. Be it. Feel it.
Follow through. Integrity is so important because you can talk about it all you want. And you can, fantasize about, oh, I'm going to lose that weight. And then in 6 months I'll be happier. Oh yeah, I'm going to, work on overcoming emotional eating or whatever it is. But if you don't take the action, you're going to continue to actually, I think, disconnect from yourself more and almost kind of feel like you're letting yourself down in essence because you're wanting something and you're talking about it, but you're not taking the action. And I think that the action is the most vital part in your health journey, in your self-care journey, in your building a healthy relationship with food and your body. Because if you're not taking action, like really what is changing?
Right. Yeah. Well, on that note, I also think that with the taking action, and like you said earlier, doing the inner work is so important too. Cause I see so many beautiful women who do put on weight as a way of protecting themselves from past trauma.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And
it's very common.
Right. And it's like, as soon as they release the trauma, then all of a sudden they want to exercise more or they want to eat healthier. Like they want to step into that next level. We always say like stepping into that next level of who you are, right? It just becomes who they are. Do you see it a lot?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I always share with, my clients and women that I'm chatting with is if you are hanging on to weight or protection, it's because there is this part of you that doesn't feel safe and your body's like primal way to protect you is to hang on to protection and pad you with protection. So instead of getting angry and frustrated with your body, can you start to get curious about like, why do I think I'm hanging on? Is it a trauma that, is making me scared and wanting to hang on? Is it my overbooked schedule? Is it emotional eating? Is it restrictive diets?
Getting curious.
Yeah, getting curious is so key. And what a lot of them start to find is wow, like there are actually multiple things that are making my body hang on to protection. And when they get those blocks out of the way and they feel safe in their body, they don't have to diet or do a certain amount of
Right.
exercise for it to come off. It just comes off. And I love that, because I don't think people should have to go and kill themselves in the gym and restrict to have, you know, a healthy weight and be happy in their body.
I completely agree. And to some people that are listening right now, that might be like such an aha moment for them, realizing that this weight is actually protection. Like that's a very different way of looking at your body and like what's going on with you. So if you're listening and you're having this breakthrough, yay.
Yeah, so exciting.
Yay, so exciting. And I was going to add something to what you just said about how when the weight starts to come off, people just automatically start to become more intuitive with what they want to eat.
Yeah. Oh, totally. You become more mindful because you're physically feeling better. You're emotionally feeling better, not because you're losing weight, but just because you're more connected with yourself. And it's like almost the letting go of protection is a bonus of all the other beautiful work that you're doing. And it's like, it's mind blowing, because I know a lot of women who have the limiting belief of, I've got to exercise and burn X amount of calories, and I've got to limit my calorie intake with food in order to lose weight. And that's because that's what the diet industry preaches.
And it gets so obsessive.
Yes.
And when we obsess over something not happening in the world of manifestation, it's very much resistance.
Yes.
Like when you're restricting, I believe that it's like you are resisting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100% you are. And what you resist persists.
Right.
Then often those people gain more weight and or their physical symptoms. So maybe it's like low energy or bloating or their hormone imbalances. They get worse because they're in stress mode. And of course, the body doesn't respond well to more stress.
Exactly.
Right? So
I was at the gym yesterday. And I'm very empathic, and I feel like I can read everybody, what they're thinking, how they're feeling all the time, and I try and turn it off. But I was at the gym, and I just had this like feeling of this woman was working out, and as she's working out, she's hating on herself, right? I just felt her energy towards herself, and I was going to write like this whole post about it, but I was like, no, this is just my own learning. But it's just interesting how you'll go to the gym, you'll do all these things, you'll eat healthy, but then you're still hating on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because this is the thing I always say to people is the gym and the food are external, and no amount of working out or healthy eating is going to have you build your self-worth. You've got to be willing to want to go inside and do the inner self-love, self-care work, which, yes, eating well can make you feel better, and so can movement, but anything external usually doesn't fill the void. We've got to go inside. And I find a lot of women use exercise as a punishment, actually, because they've, you know, they got on the scale and it didn't move or it went up. And so they're like, oh, I need to go to the gym and punish, or they've binged or emotionally eaten. So they're like, oh, now I have to go to the gym and fix it. I used to do that, right? It was all punishment. Yeah. I hate going to the gym and working out, but I was so scared that if I didn't do it, I would lose control of my body even more and gain weight. And the irony was, I actually went through a scenario when I was done emotionally eating, but my hormones were a nightmare. My cortisol and thyroid, and I had estrogen dominance. And I was actually gaining weight, even though I wasn't binging. I was eating really well. And I was still going to the gym. And I had this limiting belief of like, I need to work out to maintain my weight or to lose weight. And I was so resistant to stopping the exercise, but essentially I had gained about 50 pounds again without binging, and it was at my heaviest weight. And I'm going, what the heck is going on? Yeah. And then when I start to sit and, you know, look at my hormones and look at this limiting belief, I'm like, I think this is playing a huge role. So I quit the gym and I worked on just like restful self-care, supporting my hormones. And I swear to you, it melted off within a few months. Like I literally rested it off. And so I think for women who are scared to stop, you know, intense exercise for fear of gaining weight, like I will challenge you, because I've never had a client who's, you know, toned down on the workouts gain weight. In fact, it's usually the opposite that happens, because it's good when your hormones are good, but if your hormones aren't good, it just adds more stress on the pile.
Right, which is going to make you gain weight. Your work is so important. I mean, this takes up so much space for so many people. This is probably the biggest, I don't want to say issue or problem, but a challenge This is
It is.
probably the biggest challenge that people, women and men, but women in this case,
Yes.
face. And it's just, it can make me cry. Like I feel it. Like it's just like, it's
Yeah.
so, it's big.
It is big. And I'm so with you on that, because some days I'll be like driving around or doing something and I feel the collective energy of the world.
Right?
And I'm like, this is sad. I feel so sad that this is.
No.
I'm like, no, like clear that away. You are here to make an impact. There are many other people on this earth who are making an impact, and it is shifting. But I so hear you on like feeling the collective. And I think that, 90% of the female population in North America has struggled with some form of eating disorder or body image issue. That's huge. And then I think it's about 45% of men, and now little girls as young as 5 are dieting. And so it's like, that's a huge impact. And so for me, it's like, okay, what can I do to impact the world and like let people know you're not alone? Like, you know what, if you are struggling with emotional eating, or you can seem to find a diet that's helping you to lose weight, like don't be embarrassed, don't be ashamed, don't feel like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that you need to take a different approach that takes the focus off of diet and exercise, and again, that inner connection, right? I mean, I always share my story because I want people to know you're not alone. I get what you're going through, and you also don't have to accept it as your normal and keep suffering. I think that's the other thing, is this doesn't have to be your life.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like in that state, you think it's never going to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always going to be this way. And then you get to the point where you're just so sick of being in that feeling and place that you're just like, I need to change my life, and that's what I feel like. That's with anything. It could be with your body, with your diet, with your money, with anything it could relate to. But I remember riding a bike with a friend, and she just was so mean to herself. We're exercising and she's just like, I hate my thighs. Like this, my thighs, like. And I'm looking at her. She's so beautiful. And I'm just like, you need to you want your thighs to release weight. I'm like, you need to look at them and give them like a big hug. Like your cells are listening to you.
Yes, they are. Always. Yeah. It's so true. And it's so interesting. And I'm glad that you just mentioned that, because I think people don't realize your cells are listening to your thoughts and what you're saying to yourself. And I find a lot of women have a huge insecurity with their abdominal area, and I used to as well. And then they all have really poor digestion and bad digestive issues because they're hating on their stomach all the time and hating on that area. And it's like, it's not just about, eating digestive friendly foods. It's about shifting your mindset and the way you're perceiving that part of you, because your cells can hear you.
Yeah. And that is like, can we talk a little bit about that, about how can you shift your perception on what you truly don't like seeing in the mirror?
Yeah. I think the first step is to admit what you don't like and to be aware of it.
Okay, great.
I think it's to become aware of how often you're saying it to yourself, because that loathing part of you, that's the ego, as I like to refer to. The self-sabotaging mindset is the ego. We all have one. And so I think it's so important to become aware that you have this ego that wants you to keep hating on certain parts of you, or all of you, whatever that is, and that there's an opportunity for you to decide, if I want something different, I'm going to start to recognize when I'm saying this to myself. I'm going to catch it and I'm going, you know what? That's not my truth.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's uncomfortable for me to say something nice about that part of me right now, because it always is in the beginning, but it just takes starting to go, you know what? I'm grateful and thankful for my stomach and my digestive system, because it's keeping me alive. I'm grateful and thankful that my heart is beating without me even having to think about it. Like my body, even though I'm not, I feel X about my body right now, it's the reason I'm here having this experience, this human experience on earth. Like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my body. Right. So I think it's so important to just start with that, like acknowledging awareness and then catching and shifting. I think for a lot of women, like if this is something you've struggled with for a very long time, like maybe there is an opportunity to get support and get help to shift it, because I know how strong the ego can be and how self-destructive it can be. And sometimes we need somebody who really believes in us and is like our champion for our self-love and our success and our body image health. But I think that's a great place to start is with that. And then to use your self-care tools to help you build that self-love and body love. Because if you're not, again, if your schedule's overbooked and you're in self-sabotaging behaviors and you're not taking the time, what's going to change? It will just continue.
You're right.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you about, what was it about when you're listening to your clients share about their body image and share about how upset they are, how like devastated they are with themselves, or like they're really in it.
Yeah.
How does that, like, how do you respond to that? I know it's like different with each situation, but like, how do you kind of handle that?
Well, I think for me, I ask a lot of questions to help them start to reflect and like answer like, okay, you know, when did you start feeling this way? Why do you think that about yourself? Is this really your truth? Like, is this really true about you?
Yeah.
A lot of loving compassion. And I always say, you know, I know you're feeling this way about your body right now or about X. Give yourself a lot of love and compassion right now. Know it's the ego, and know the more awareness you build around recognizing who the true you is in your heart and your ego, which resides in your head, you're going to start to take your power back more easily, and you're going to be empowered, and you're going to feel happier and emotionally lighter, and you're going to have more energy as you take the time to do this beautiful work. And as you do so, the voice quiets. And yes, the ego will come up and it's going to challenge you sometimes because it doesn't want to be shoved in the corner. But once you're aware, you can't delete awareness, and it only grows. And that helps you to grow your power with your body image, your relationship with food, your business, whatever it is. And I think discovering my ego is one of the most powerful things I could ever do, because I now know how to navigate it. And if it does challenge me at any point, like I learn something.
Oh yeah. It's more of a growing experience than like a victim experience.
Exactly. Well, victim is ego, right? So it's like, I'm done playing victim. I want to be in my power. And the growth is such an like amazing
I think that's such a powerful tool, even just like acknowledging that like you want to be in your power.
Yeah. I think that's so important. And then people say, well, what is that? What is being in your power? And it's in essence, it's you feel like higher vibration emotions, or you just feel more empowered. You feel more calm, at peace, grounded, joy, happiness, neutral, or curious. Whereas the ego is all about fear, worry, guilt, people pleasing, emotional eating, like external obsession of your image, lack mindset. Like that's all ego.
I think you just nailed on that external obsession. That is, I think, something that if we can really understand that loving from the inside will create a different outside, right? Like
100%.
Healing from the inside will create a different outside. And it's not the opposite way, you guys. Like it's not. It's not. We're so programmed to think it is from all of our media and society, but it's so not, which is why there are so many light workers emerging and so many people sharing this message, because we're part of this like holistic disclosure of like what the freak is real.
Yes.
The truth.
Exactly. True. Exactly. And when you love your body, which every person on this earth is worthy to have the experience to build self-love and fully love themselves. But when you love your body, you really see her as your temple, and you want to take care of her and you want to nurture her. And then you see how that helps you attract and manifest everything you want. And you feel unstoppable. And you're like, yes, I'm worthy of everything: success, abundance, love, health. Like I can have it all. And that, you know, inspires you to want to do good in the world as well. And so I think it's just so freeing. You free up so much mental, like, clutter in your brain when you learn how to love yourself, because again, you're empowered and you're not obsessing about like weighing your food or the scale or your clothing size, or like, oh my gosh, like, you know, how am I going to pay the bills next week? Because you're in a trust and you know you're being supported.
Yeah, it's so freaking powerful. And like loving your body. Like I love my body, and like I love playing in her and like with her and out there in here, like, and so the freedom aspect. And I think that that's why people are attracted to me, because I have a freedom about me.
Yeah.
I didn't always have that freedom, but people assume that I did just because I'm skinny or thin.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've personally dealt with. Like, you know, when I was little, people would stop my mom and be like, is your daughter anorexic? Like people would literally skinny shame me when I was little. And so that is a whole nother thing. Maybe I'll share that on your podcast one day. Like it's because it's a real thing. And it's so crazy growing up and having that programmed in me that all I wanted to do was hide my body. Like I didn't want to make anyone feel weird or like, it was just like this whole backwards thinking that I had to deprogram about myself. And it still makes me uncomfortable sometimes when people will say to me, like, I'm just so jealous of your body. Like what, like that to me is like, but you have such a beautiful body too. Like it just is, it's something that I have tried to work through and am working through, but it's just like, no, it doesn't matter what your body actually looks like.
Yeah.
It's your vehicle. Like you said, it's your temple.
Exactly. And, you know, all of the love and compassion for you for what you've experienced, because I think so many women who have what is quote unquote the society, like beautiful perception of a body, like thin and whatever it is, like getting shamed regardless of your shape or size is just not okay. And I think and this is where I think society, like I really challenge society to step up and to work on themselves, because if you take the responsibility for your own insecurities and you do the work, then you're not going to be projecting on other people for their body. And because, okay, this is the way your body is and the way that your body decided to create itself, like that's not your fault. Right. So why should you get, you know what I mean? Like almost
shame is shame. Shame is shame regardless.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's just so interesting. You're right. And responsibility, that's come up a lot today in just my day of like, if you really start to pay attention, it's all about taking responsibility in all areas of your life.
It is. And what ends up happening is as you take responsibility for yourself and your stuff, your relationships improve. Like I remember when I first started dating my boyfriend and some of the petty stuff that I'd like bring up and it would create some conflict and then I'm like, oh my God, that's not his stuff. That's my stuff. I need to work on that. And like, it shifted everything. And like, and same with just other, you know, parts of life. But I think the more we can own it and go, okay, the blame game doesn't work. It's my stuff. I need to own it. Like, why don't they teach that in school? They need to teach that in school.
Yeah. And you know what? When you start to own it, that's going to make people feel uncomfortable too. Yeah. And you know what? For sure. That's for them to look at.
Exactly. So, that's their stuff. That's their journey. Right. And you're going to trigger people. You're going to upset people, but it's to sit in your power and go, it's all good. We can talk about it if the time comes. Otherwise, like, I'm just sitting here in my power holding space.
That's it.
That's it.
And I want to be a container for you to step into your power.
Yeah, exactly. And I take a stand. Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I know that you have clients, but I want to ask you three more things.
Yeah.
What makes you a badass manifester?
I think for me, that's a great question. I think it's that I have really learned how to love myself and trust the universe and trust my body. And I think that's one of the most valuable gifts I could have created for myself because I used to be the opposite. And now having that connection to source, spirit, universe, and myself and seeing the purpose that I'm here to serve, it just makes me trust that, heck yes, I'm a badass manifestor to look at what I've created and what I'm going to continue to create. And I'm so grateful and thankful. Right?
Yeah, totally. Awesome. And then any last words of wisdom that you want to leave our audience with?
Again, I think you're not alone. You can make these changes. It is possible to work less and have more balance and manifest even more beyond your wildest dreams. And if you are struggling with anything that we've talked about today, it does not have to be your norm. I would lovingly encourage you to not accept it as your norm and to take the steps, get the support, build the awareness, whatever you feel like you need to do for yourself to make those changes so that you can have freedom.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, it's all about freedom at the end of the day.
It is.
It really is. Okay, awesome. And where can everyone find you? I know you're on Instagram.
So I'm on Instagram. It's my name, Amber Romaniuk, Romaniuk. You can my website at amberpoop.ca. It's just been put up brand new, and I have things like an emotional eating quiz there. And you can also listen to my podcast. It's called the No Sugarcoating Podcast. Again, available everywhere. And I do talk a lot about these subjects and delve deeper into health and relationship with food and body and all those great things too.
Amazing. I will link it all up in the show notes. You are a gem. I'm so
are you. Thank you.
So happy that you're here, and thank you for adding so much value from your heart to this amazing show. So thank you.
And thank you for creating a space today for me to share. I so appreciate it, and I'm so grateful for everything you're doing in this world as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to the Badass Manifester podcast. I love manifesting Mondays with you, and there's so much more in store right here. The best way to manifest love is to give love. If you loved what you heard today, subscribe to the Badass Manifester podcast. Leave a review on iTunes. Let me know how much you dig the energy here. All of my social is linked up in the show notes, so screenshot this episode, tag me on Instagram, and let me be part of your real-time journey. For more info on me, feel free to go to my website, manifestwithash.com. Repeat after me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. Go get them.